Hello my friends, so this is the second part of my video response to Bill Schnobelen, and this guy is so creative with his past that it is really easy for me to find holes in his story. So I really don't need to do anything. I could just have him playing in the background and just sit here and watch it with you people and enjoy the show. But I kind of feel like I have to sort of jump in there and say stuff. But the funniest thing is, you know, hold up. Let's do the introduction, then we'll get into the video. So stick around. I don't really need to do too much research. Some videos I do, the person finds something. They find some little nugget somewhere in some occult book or something that some quote somebody said, and I have to go digging through and find out if it's true or not. And if it is true, what kind of a context was it in? What does it mean? Or, you know, sometimes I have to do actual research and go to the library and get books and wait for books. So there's research that's involved. With Bill, I really don't have to do anything. There were a couple of things that he said about his past where I had to contact people and verify things and find out information. But other than that, most of the stuff is pretty much self-explanatory bullshit. So, let's get right into this.
The next day I got a phone call from these two girls that live down in Chicago, which is a short, train ride up from down, they're down, we're up in Milwaukee. Right. And they want to know if they can come and visit me because I was this great satanic priest and blah, 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 all of that. And so I said, sure. They said they had something to give me as an offering. And I thought, well, whatever, So they came, and when they got in the door, they were like two teenage girls that worship the devil. And, what was really bizarre is they gave me these two Christian comic books about the occult. They were from Chick Publications. One was called Spellbound, and the other one was called Angel of Light. And they were both about the dangers of the occult. And they said, you got to read these things. They're so dumb. They're absolutely Neanderthal. And that was their great gift to me. And, of course, I just looked at them, I thought they were totally stupid and threw them in a drawer and forgot about them.
Right. I really wanted to find these chick tracts. Unfortunately, the two that he mentioned, for whatever reason, like the rest of his story, don't exist. At least I couldn't find them. And I went to Chick Tract's website, which I will link down below, and I could not find either one of these chick tracts. And I really, really wanted to show you at least a couple of panels of these chick tracts. Because if you've never seen a chick tract before, you really need to see them, because they are just, they encapsulate what a lot of people like Bill Schnobelen and others like him really think about the occult and anything that is different from what they believe and what they practice. So anyhow, I will put a link down below to Chick Tract's website so you can go and take a look at some for yourself.
Well, the next day, there was a knock on our door, and we opened the door, and it was Mormon missionaries, And I remember what this Druid guy had said, the Grand Master Druid of North America. Only have I ever got into trouble that I should join the Mormon Church, because they were started by witches for witches.
I told you I really don't have to say anything. I could just sit here and just watch this video with you people and just react to it.
Well. And, at the time, again, like I said, I didn't know much about the Mormon Church. But this is a sign from Lucifer. This is a sign. And so invited them in, took the lessons, watched the flip charts, got baptized. That was August of 1980. Went to the temple. Salt Lake Temple in 1981, and basically rose up, and I'd given up smoking dope. I'd given up all the orgies and stuff. I'd tried to be a good Mormon, in other words, because Mormons basically try to live a good Christian lifestyle, quote unquote. Of course, they don't know the real Savior from a doorknob.
Right.
So I'm going to skip past this part where they're spouting this rhetoric and lies about the Mormon church, and I'll let the Mormons defend that.
So I was one of the elite. I went through the temple, and the temple is highly Luciferian in its nature. But at the time, I thought that was okay because I had been led to believe the Mormon church was started by witches.
Right.
So that was no big surprise to me. But what was a surprise to me is that there were all these people that were basically dying on the vine. They weren't able.
So I'm going to skip past this part.
It's amazing, man. That's a very extensive thing. I know, like, the Mormon church, I believe, wasn't Joseph Smith. He was a Freemason himself, was he not?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was a Mason. So was his brother. And so have been a lot of the Mormon prophets since then. I mean, like Brigham Young was one. I think a couple of the other earlier Mormon prophets were Masons. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that makes sense that they would, started by witches, for witches, because if people don't know about Freemasonry, I think most of the people listening know the truth about Freemasonry by now. But for those that don't, can you kind of explain a little bit about Freemasonry and why it's not exact? I have friends that are Freemasons, and no matter I guess they're like, well, you're not a Freemason, so you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, you're right, I'm not a Freemason, but I know people that have been in Freemasonry, and some that are very high level, like yourself. I mean, I think in our town there's one 33rd degree Freemason, and he's not going to talk to me about anything like that. But you're probably the highest that I've heard of that actually came out of the occult.
So apparently, Bill was elected to the Heartland Lodge, number 0122 in Wisconsin, in April of 1976. He was initiated in May of 1976, which made him a first-degree entered apprentice. He passed in August of 1976 to the second degree, which is called the Fellow of a Craft. He was raised in November 1976 to the third degree Master Mason. He resigned in November of 1981, and he was suspended from the South Shore Lodge, number 0003 in Wisconsin, to which he was affiliated in December of 1986. So, according to the sources that I have, you were never any higher than a third degree, Bill.
Can you explain to people a little bit about what Freemasonry is and why they should stay away from it?
Yeah, let's put a pin in that, and let me make one other point about the previous subject.
Okay.
What I didn't know when I was a Mormon, but I found out later on in 1986 and 1987 when I was out in Salt Lake preaching, doing this Christian conference for my dear friend Ed Decker, is that Joseph Smith has been historically established to not only be a Freemason, but to be a witch.
Really? Do tell.
To be a warlock, if you want to call him that, a sorcerer. There's this Mormon historian, D. Michael Quinn, who was since excommunicated from the church, but he was a BYU professor.
Oh, yeah, this guy sounds real reliable.
And he wrote this book called Early Mormonism and the Magic Worldview, and I have a copy of it. It's now out of print, but it's this thick. And the guy documents all the weird stuff, occultism, crystal balls, fortune-telling, talismans, necromancy, animal sacrifice that Joseph Smith was involved in.
So what? I never really went into this before, but I think it's kind of important when we talk about animal sacrifice because people are shocked by the words animal sacrifice. But your local butcher sacrifices animals. Your local store sacrifices animals. If you eat meat, you have had an animal sacrificed for you. We kill animals to consume. So basically, if you eat a hamburger or you eat chicken, you eat anything that's an animal, it was killed so that you could eat it. Way back in the day, we would go out and we would hunt animals and we would kill them and we would consume the food. So in my eyes, it doesn't really matter if you just kill it unceremoniously, or you kill an animal ceremoniously. Hopefully, whoever, and if they are doing any kind of an animal sacrifice, at least hopefully they're eating the animal afterwards, or at least somehow using the animal so that the animal did not die in vain. But other than that, when they talk about animal sacrifice being a horrible, terrible thing, we kind of need to put it in a little bit of perspective and understand that animal sacrifice happens every single day throughout the entire world so that we can survive as a species.
And this is a guy who's supposedly a prophet of God,
Right.
quote unquote.
Right.
And he was basically a con man. And he was probably demon possessed to his eyeballs. So, I just want people to understand that the thing that this Druid guy told me back in 1973 about the Mormon church being founded by witches.
Do you mean the Grand Master Druid of North America, who actually had no affiliation whatsoever of any valid Druid organizations, neither the Order of Bards, Oites, and Druids, or ADF, or at that time what they would have been known as RDNA. Here's a link to the previous video in case you're wondering what I'm talking about. But basically, this guy who called himself the Grand Master Druid of North America was a charlatan, and he had no actual title whatsoever. And basically, this guy played Bill like a chump.
Wasn't just somebody, blowing smoke up your skirt.
Right.
He was telling the truth.
Yeah.
And he knew because he himself was an LDS bishop. So, that being said, moving on to the Masonry, the thing about Masonry is Masons say they are not a religion, but only religious. And that's just playing word games.
Right.
Not exactly. They're actually all-inclusive. You see, the Freemasons are an organization. They're considered to be a religious body, but they are not a religion itself, meaning that they want to have a Muslim, a Christian, and a Jew be able to basically be in the same lodge without fighting over whose God is which. All you need is a belief in a supreme being to be a Freemason. That is it. As for it actually being a religion, no, it is not a religion. But they want people from various walks of religion to be able to be in the same room with each other, which, if you actually look at the state of the world right now, is quite an amazing task.
And, basically Masonry has all the qualities of religion. It requires you to believe in a supreme being. It has a system of morality. There's things you can do and things you cannot do. And that system of morality and ethics is expressed in ritual. It's very ritualized. No Mason can deny that.
Oh my, how horrible. Those fiends.
So Masonry is a religion, and I would put it to anybody who's supposedly a Christian and a Mason, how could he be a part of two religions at once?
Masons do not require one to leave a religion. However, to be a Mason, you must have a belief in a higher being. You don't necessarily have to have a religion, but if you are Christian, Jew, or Muslim, or what have you, you are welcome to be a Freemason. Once you are a Freemason and you are in the hall, you cannot go around proselytizing, try to convince people to join your religion, nor would anyone allow such a thing to happen in a hall.
So, you couldn't be a Christian and a Muslim. Right. You couldn't be a Christian and a Hindu. You couldn't be a Christian and be a Buddhist. So why would you be a Christian and be a Freemason?
I think my audience pretty much understands this, but just in case, here's the website from my local chapter of Masons, which also happens to be the Lodge for California, which is localized in here in San Francisco.
Now, the danger of it is, and we have a DVD which expresses this very well. It's called Freemasonry, Fatal in the First Degree. And people can get that off a little plug here for our website. Our website is withoneaccord.org. We have a lot of free stuff there. We have all of my books and DVDs. I've written 8 books, and I've done countless. I could have probably 30 or 40 DVD teachings now. Plus, we're also on YouTube and on Facebook, all of that. But anyway, in this DVD, I document how even the first degree. See, let's say you're a Christian, and you decide to join the lodge because your uncle was in it or a friend was in it. Maybe your pastor was in it. Mm-hmm. And he tells you, oh, it's a great institution. It makes good men better. Yeah. That's what
I've heard that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. That's their little slogan. Yeah. So anyway, you go there, you're interviewed by a committee to make sure you're not some kind of a pervert or something. That's another story, but and I'm sure, you were talking before about, your friend David Carrico, our mutual friend. Right. And, we'll both confirm to you that Masons actually have the highest number of pedophiles, perverts. I mean, they put the Catholic priesthood to shame.
This is just slanderous, and I am really, really getting fed up with this. If you have any accusations of anyone doing any kind of sexual molestation of children, report it to the proper authorities. If you are not going to report whatever knowledge you have of anything to the proper authorities, basically you are allowing whatever you believe to continue to happen. If you don't have any evidence for it, then don't make false accusations, because if you make false accusations, it makes those accusations which are valid and need to be investigated, you are pulling attention away from those. So unless you have actual evidence of any kind of an illegal activity going on, don't cry wolf and pull attention and resources from people and situations and illegal activity that actually needs to be investigated and stopped. So basically, if you're going to make these accusations, back it up with something and report it to the proper authorities, because I'm sick and tired of hearing all this chatter about these serious allegations and you don't do anything about them. If you have evidence for it, report it.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to David Carrico about that. He was here locally. I don't know if you're familiar with the Blue House, the Satanic Blue House, but they were one of the ones that broke it out. But they uncovered that Freemasons were the ones that were bringing these children away from the school, and they were doing sexual, not sacrifices, but rituals, satanic rituals on these children and bringing them back to the school, and it was happening at all these different schools, and all the people that were doing were Freemasons. So I can't. Yeah, I mean it's just, look, when I heard about that, I was like, wow, that is outrageous. I cannot believe that. It's so crazy, but it's true. And I looked it up, and it's in the newspaper. It happened I think I want to say like almost 15 years ago here in our town, and man, it's just it's crazy. So
I did this story by David Carrico in the Blue House, and I'll show you a clip of the article right here. But apparently this was a very extensive investigation. There were over 150 witnesses interviewed, and basically it just did not lay out the way that the people believed that it happened. These children were making accusations against the principals, and there was no way that the principal could have been in this particular location at this time. So I don't know the very specifics of this, but those who are in charge of investigating this found these people to be innocent of the charges placed against them.
Yeah, and I mean we've prayed for thousands, probably 5,000-6,000 people now to be set free from the demonic, and so many of them come from Masonic homes where the father, the grandfather, the uncle was a Mason. Mm-hmm. They were sexually molested as children, boys, girls, doesn't matter. And I'll get to why that is in a moment. But anyway,
these people over at NYSTV are just under the assumption that Freemasons or some kind of occult activity or Satanists or somehow are behind this. Again, this information was given to the authorities. They did not pursue it because they did not feel that it was a valid avenue to pursue. So this is the end of this video on Bill Schnobelen. I am going to be doing more videos on Bill Schnobelen in the future, but I don't know if I'm going to be doing one in the near future. So, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video, and blessed be.
ha ha ha